Hello, this is Universally Me. I'm Antonia, and I'm very excited about today's topic, the monsters. Undoubtedly, they're Universal's greatest contribution to film, their greatest legacy, and there's actually so much to go over here that I'm going to break it into two parts. So part one, this part, I will just introduce the monsters and talk a little bit about who they are. And then part two, I will talk about why they're so significant and how they influence pretty much everything in film and society today. So Carl Laemmle founded Universal Studios in 1912. In 1929, he turned over control of the studio to his son, Carl Jr., as a 21st birthday present. Not bad. Though the first horror films were made under Carl Sr.'s control, it was really Jr. who made them the focus of the studio. Jr. really wanted to make films that young people would want to go to and that, he thought would make money with the sort of new, younger movie-going crowd. So that's how he kind of realized that horror films were the way to go. And it also didn't hurt that he was really into everything macabre. He loved the dark and mysterious, and he had this fascination with death and dying. And he had a lot of quirks of his own too. He was a germaphobe, he was a hypochondriac, so the movies that he chose and the characters in them kind of reflect that. They're always very dark, they're always cheating death. Okay, the monsters. First, made under Carl Sr.'s control in 1923, was The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now, some people don't consider the Hunchback a universal monster because he doesn't have a supernatural element to him, but I do. He was the first character to really scare movie-going audiences. The Hunchback was played by Lon Chaney, who's also known as the Man of a Thousand Faces, and he really threw himself into this role. He would hunch himself over all day long. He stuffed walnuts in his cheeks, he did all of his own makeup, performed all of his own stunts, and he really transformed himself into Quasimodo in a way that nobody had ever imagined him before. Next came the Phantom, 1925. A masked man causes mayhem and misery around a Paris opera house, all in pursuit of the woman that he loves. Lon Chaney played the Phantom, and for this movie, he actually painted his eye sockets black. He pinned his nose up with wire and put false teeth in his mouth, all to make his face look almost skull-like. And in the movie, when his love, Christine, pulls back the mask for the first time, audiences actually screamed and fainted because they'd never seen something so real and so scary before. Under Junior's control, the monster movies really got going, and now with a more supernatural element to them. The first, 1931's Dracula. Everyone knows the story: vampire, bats, teeth, Van Helsing, Transylvania. Bela Lugosi starred as Dracula, and as he'd never been seen before. He was charming, he was calculated, he was intelligent. It really set the tone for just about every depiction of Dracula that we've seen since. Next, Frankenstein. Now, first a disclaimer. I know that in the book it refers to him as the monster, Frankenstein's monster, the creature, etc. But Universal ultimately ended up calling him Frankenstein, so for these purposes, so will I. Frankenstein was released just 10 months after Dracula. Again, everyone knows the story. A mad scientist creates life with electricity using various body parts and the brain of a criminal. Townspeople go nuts. Boris Karloff played Frankenstein and would ultimately go on to reprise the role in both Son of Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. The very next year, in 1932, Karloff got to play his very next monster, the Mummy. After an archaeologist reads a scroll found on an expedition in Egypt, the mummy, Imhotep, is brought back to life. Imhotep disguises himself for years as a modern Egyptian named Ardith Bey and spends the film going after the woman he believes to be the reincarnation of his love. Boris Karloff underwent almost 8 hours of makeup every day for this movie, and for the time, it's actually really impressive. Alright, 1933, The Invisible Man. A scientist uses a drug called monocaine to make himself invisible. But an unfortunate side effect of the drug is that it also turns him into a murderous lunatic. The Invisible Man is really notable for two major reasons. First, it was Claude Rains' first American film, and after this, his career just skyrocketed. Second, the special effects in this film are really way ahead of their time. And it totally changed the special effects that they used in science fiction and horror films following this. Next up is one of my favorite Universal films of all time, The Bride of Frankenstein. Some people think this film is better than the original Frankenstein. I'm pretty sure I agree. This film picks up right where the last one ended, and the bride is played by Elsa Lanchester. I remember being actually really disappointed the first time that I saw this film because, I mean, it's called The Bride of Frankenstein. I think she's so cool. I think she's only on screen maybe 4 or 5 minutes tops, but still, her makeup done by Jack Pierce is immaculate. Her hair, inspired by Nefertiti, is amazing. And even though the movie The Bride of Frankenstein seems largely forgotten by the mainstream, her look is iconic. It's remembered forever. The last 2 monsters are post-Laemmle Universal, but still pretty epic. The first is 1941's The Wolfman. The first great thing about The Wolfman is that it stars Lon Chaney Jr., the son of Lon Chaney from Phantom and Hunchback. Claude Rains and Bela Lugosi also appear in this film. The Wolfman is pretty straightforward. A man tries to save a woman from being attacked by a wolf, only to be bitten himself. He begins to turn into a wolf and become increasingly violent despite all of his efforts not to. This film is pretty important, pretty great, because it really set the tone for pretty much every werewolf depiction we've seen since. And last but not least, we jump forward to 1954's Creature from the Black Lagoon, which was originally shot and shown in 3D. The creature, or the gill man as he's sometimes referred to, is a prehistoric half-humanoid, half-fish-like thing living in the Amazon. A group of marine biologists are on an expedition to find fossils, but little do they know the creature has already found them. What's worse is he's fallen in love with the fiancée of one of the researchers and will do just about anything to get her. The creature was actually played by 2 men. Actor Ben Chapman did all the land scenes, and Rico Browning handled everything underwater. The creature was green and scaly and had webbed feet and hands with sharp claws at the end. And like just about every other Universal monster, it was super influential, and they're still doing reboots and remakes all the time. So now you know all the monsters. The Hunchback, the Phantom, Dracula, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, the Wolfman, and the Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's kind of crazy that all of these iconic characters came from just one studio. And in the next episode, I'll talk about how they're still everywhere. It's crazy. Once I really started learning about it, I started seeing traces of the monsters in everything. So anyway, follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Antonia Carlotta. Please subscribe to my channel. Please tell all of your friends to watch. And thank you very much. Bye.